Now, I'm not trying to brag about things, but they're some of the biggest fermenters in Queensland. Brag all you want, mate. I would.
My job takes me to really cool places and really cool events, and I think that, on a whole, is awesome.
You gotta put your hands together, please. Brewers Choice winners, Byron Bay!
It was everything they were expecting on that day, that Friday the 6th. We took off a very little flame and turned it into something very large.
Appreciation for what they've done for their towns. Horrific work for what the boys done, so we thought we'd put on a big dig.
We'll have to get around and have a chat to the neighbours about what's going on, and we might even alert the local constabulary as well, because this is a legitimate crop.
So we're just putting in a second-hand cold room. Cold storage is probably one of the biggest expenses we have at the moment, so we're trying to bring it all off-site, bought all the panels second-hand.
Yeah, so I hope it all comes together. I feel like the rye is a little bit interesting. The rye is a bit of interesting flavour, and I think that the Chinook hops are going to complement that really well. You know, it's all going to come together, I think. Yeah.
By the end of 2019, Brisbane had its fair share of craft beer tap houses. And I was about to wrap the year up with champion homebrewer Tony van der Linden as he tasted his Black Hops Collaborative brew for the very first time. I hated to make him wait, but this would need focus. He'd waited plenty long enough, but still needed
You're gonna smell it first.
those first couple of tasting notes.
A little bit dank, a little bit citrusy.
A Friday lunchtime crowd added to the excitement, and his first reaction was a very good sign. So was he happy with it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, absolutely.
Was it the beer that he thought it would be?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty happy with that. Pretty happy.
Tony's close mates and fellow homebrewers had joined him and confirmed that he was on to another winner. To many a homebrewer, this might seem like the pinnacle of achievement. But as humble as Tony could be, I had a feeling he would already have his sights on something else.
It's the end of the journey.
So was this just the beginning, and had it been the inspiration to do more?
Yeah, it has. Got a few folks I need to have a chat to at the moment. Nothing too crazy at this point, but definitely want to do a bit more. Certainly something I always felt like I wanted to do, for sure.
So what really made CH47 his brew of choice?
Oh, I had a few ideas that I threw around with Gulps, with Black Hops. There were probably 3 or 4. The Baltic's always got a special place in my heart, both. I had a few other ideas there, like a chili brown ale, the red rye lager that scored really well at the Gold Coast comp as well. I've been having a chat with one of my old mates, and this idea of the Chinook IPA came up, and I pitched that one to go, and that was the one he just loved, right? He's like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm a bit embarrassed I didn't come up with that one myself, he said, you know. And they're a big IPA kind of brewer as well, so they love their hops. They've got that slightly kind of military thing going on with a lot of their beer names as well. And Govs is an ex-army man, I believe. So, yeah, it was just all fell into place. Turned out to be a perfect beer for Black Hops. I'm really happy with it.
Along with Tony's mates, I was also pretty impressed. And I had the feeling that once the Brisbane locals got the taste for it, CH47 will be out of action pretty quickly. Another year was underway, and my first visit took me back to the Granite Belt and Possum Lane Farm to see exactly how much Rick's hops had grown as he began pulling them in for harvest. But conditions had remained dry, and I was a little sceptical about what I would find.
Well, harvest day at Possum Lane has finally come. Rick Humphries is going to pull in his crop. After all this time in serious drought, we finally had some rain. Not a hell of a lot out here though. Unfortunately, that's usually the case. Most of southeast Queensland is covered in clouds today, but the farmers out at Stanthorpe just can't seem to take a break.
Regardless of the ongoing unfavourable conditions, Rick had already made quite the impression on me, and I knew that I would find him in good spirits. So my first impressions of the crop were another big bonus.
Well, if memory serves me correctly, last time I was here, you said that hops can grow up to 6 inches a day. And I'm quite happy to see that they've reached the top of the trellis.
Yeah, you just got to keep plugging on, and one year it'll all come together. But there were some fundamental things like the lighting that we have to get right. The mite problem is just pest management, and we just need to improve that. And we think we've got the timing and everything right this year that we'll be able to deal with that. It's just a matter of hopefully those winds won't come back, and we'll get a fair bit of rain, or we'll get back close to the long-term average, and we'll be fine. But I think I've got enough certainly to keep the plants going this year. It's just a matter of weighing up. If you want your perennials, which hops are, to survive, it may be that we just have to shut the parsley down early to preserve the water to keep those plants alive. You just got to balance it out depending on the season, and obviously we don't have a crystal ball, and we remain optimistic. Welcome back. How are you, mate? I'm pretty good, under the circumstances. Good to see you, under the circumstances, yeah. No, they haven't done too badly. I'm going to call it the minor miracle crop, I think.
Really? Did you get any rain out here?
Oh, we got half an inch last night, and about 3 weeks ago we got 94 mils, which was the first substantial amount we had in 12 months. But up till then we really struggled. It was a perfect storm of too high temperatures, no water, and the dreaded mites got amongst it again as well. I got them under control. I see some brown in there, but yeah, we lost a bit. But we're going to get a crop off.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't going to be the crop that he had hoped for, but Rick's enthusiasm was as infectious as ever.
How much were you hoping for, and how much have you got?
There's 450 plants. You hope for, around a kilo a bind.
Yeah.
We get 100 kilos, so a quarter of that this year we'll be doing all right.
Right.
The Hersbrookers down there, they're looking really good, but everything's really mixed.
Yeah.
But we're going to get something off it, so that's all right.
Let's go and have a look.
Okay.
Slim pickings or not, while I was there, I had every intention of rolling up my sleeves.
We'll get half of what we'd hoped off of these guys. Further down the track it's very varied, but got one row that's really, really good under the circumstances, so that's what we plan for.
Not a bad result, all things considered.
I think in September I was hoping to keep the plants alive, and if we got anything off it would have been a bonus. The fact that we're getting, we might get up to 100 kilos is pretty good.
Yep, pretty good. What do the local suppliers take? They'll sort of use all that up, or will there be anything left over for Brisbane?
No, I yet again had to ring up the guys in Brisbane and say I wasn't confident, and they needed a certainty in their schedule and stuff. And I said, I can't do it again. So, we'll give it another crack next year, assuming we get some decent rain between now and September.
And how do you feel about sacrificing your parsley this year?
Oh, well, that's never good. I mean, that pays the bills. This, you might break even on a good year. So we'll be showing little red ink this year, and we've had to buy water in so that the veggies and these guys will sort of pay for themselves in terms of buying the water and keeping things alive and ticking over. So if we can get to a zero-sum game this year, we'll do a lot better than many people who've really sunk. So it is what it is, but yeah, we're still here. We're still there. We're still back.
What can I do to help?
Drink more beer up here.
I was sure it was going to take a little bit more than that, but it was still thirsty work.
Yeah, it's been really challenging. We've probably proved to, and I think we'll be in touch with those guys in Florida, that you can get a half-decent crop using a lot less water. I think we sort of challenge the orthodoxy that you've got to pour it on. We've been really frugal, and they've still done pretty well. But the cone size isn't much chop; it's smaller. But there's lots of lupulin, which is what the brewers want in here, and there's lots of cones. So.
The cones were indeed small, but what the brewers were after was bordering on microscopic, and with a slightly disappointing crop, it was lucky for local beer drinkers that Rick appreciated the scientific nuances of growing this stuff.
So what they want is that stuff. All that beautiful yellow lupulin. That's what the brewers want for make the beer bitter and give it the aroma. There's a whole lot of oils in a hop too. It's a very
I wasn't quite sure whether Rick had his heart set on contributing to such a beer. But by that point, I certainly did. And only time will tell if the weather would help Rick get the right crop across the line.
All right, mate, I better leave you to it.
Not a problem, mate.
Good to
Good
see
luck
ya.
with it. No, thanks for following the journey.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm not particularly good at keeping records, so at least we'll have a photographic one anyway.
Well, not quite the result the old fella wanted, but promising anyway. Someone's going to make beer out of that, and I'm going to make sure I get to try it. Seems like a good experience for him. With a bit of rain this time next year and that fancy light setup, the dream of a beer made from all Queensland-based ingredients still lives on.
In local tap rooms all around Australia, the end of January brought about Hottest 100 Day. Patrons gather to drink craft beer and to hear the announcements of who's taking our top honours for the year in an Australia-wide voting poll. At Los Palms, the bar staff entertained a packed house, and the new upstairs seating area couldn't have come at a better time. At Black Ops headquarters, the usually intimate venue was being pushed to its limits as fans of the brand waited to see who would be placed at the top of the famed blackboard wall.
Oh, how many people? We've got a full tap room here today. I don't actually know how many people are here, but it's busy.
Not surprising, as the Hottest 100 Day had become by far one of the biggest days on the craft beer calendar.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest events that we have. HQ is the heart and soul of Black Ops, so people want to come here and celebrate with us.
And just who did the Black Ops leading lady think that the crowd will be celebrating for top spot this year?
I think either Bolter with their XPA or Stonewood with their pack ale, for sure.
That'd be 2 years in a row for Bolter.
Yeah, but well deserved, I think. That beer's so solid.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite top honours for Bolter's XPA this time around, and based on previous year's results, it didn't take too many powers of deduction to figure out what Leah was going to write up next.
Stonewood, another potential, absolutely.
The three blokes from Byron Bay had done it again, and the local crowd were happy to show their appreciation. But for most of them, they were here for reasons much closer to home.
So today we're pretty super stoked with our results. Super Hornet came number 33, Hornet came number 22, and Pale Ale at number 14.
Amongst a cast of hundreds from all across the country, Black Hops were moving to the top of the ranks. Ever the craft beer advocate, Leah was happy to encourage the crowd in another show of appreciation for this year's winners. And show her own for the locals on behalf of the team. A few weeks later, and the Black Ops crew had yet another reason to celebrate, marking the first birthday for BH2. The new spacious venue now accommodated live music and a large, energetic crowd. A key figure in the Black Ops team, Jesse Goodman, took charge of raffles amongst a barrage of supporters, many of which had travelled from the other end of the coast. And so 2020 was officially off to a big start. My next stop was a lot more relaxed, but just as significant, and it wouldn't be happening again anytime soon. I was back in Byron Bay with the three blokes who'd taken out top spot in the hottest 100 yet again. They'd invited me to sit down for a beer, while I invited them to do a bit of bragging about their previous 12 months' achievements.
Wow, did we ever think we'd be sitting here in this position? Not a goddamn chance in hell. I mean, no way in the world do you start something, 10, 11 years ago thinking that you were going to be sitting here today. We had a real desire and a real love of what we wanted to do. And for the three of us, Jamie, Roscoe and I, we trusted in each other's ability and trusted in each other's skills. But the three of us have such complementing, integrated skills now. That's been pretty amazing. But even back in the day, where the three of us were just in there together, we now have upwards of 150 people across the Stone and Wood Fermentum business. That's really what blows me away. Having such an incredible team of people that just love getting up every day. Such a great time. I love every day of it.
The fact had not escaped me that this was indeed a rare occasion. Three blokes as busy as this barely got time to sit down for a beer with each other, let alone with a nosy bugger like me.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. You had a really, really big year. You topped off the Hottest 100.
Hottest 100 was great. Good to be back on the podium, back on the top of the podium.
Yeah. And the girls for the Beauty Awards.
Very well.
That's a pretty good endorsement, I think, of their work out in the field. Yeah, it's a nice accolade to have. It's probably not something that you scream from the from the rafters that one. But it's definitely nice, warm and fuzzies for the guys out there pounding the pavement. Probably the hottest 100 was another one for the crew as well. Recognition again. Yeah. Again, we probably don't tend to shout that from the rooftop because you're a peacock one year, a feather duster the next, you know.
On that note, it was time to start getting inside these three wise heads. I figured if anyone had a solid opinion on the industry, it would be one, if not all three of my hosts.
What would you say about the craft beer industry in general? How do you see it right now?
It's solid spot.
A lot of people have been shocked by the growth, I would say. Yeah, there's still a long runway there. There's still a lot of people who haven't really switched from the beers they've drunk most of their life.
Probably one of the biggest changes that we've seen in the last 12 months and that we'll see in the next little while is the expansion of the whole brew pub model. Yep. So it was a big thing in the US, and we're just seeing more of that here. Yeah. Pubs getting into breweries getting into brew pubs, that type of thing, and that seems to be growing pretty quickly. So I think the year of 2020 could be the year of brew pub expansion. Yeah.
And it definitely did have its appeal. With the actual brewing equipment within reach, it seemed like craft beer producers had nothing to hide.
For us, I think the years just roll into each other. The things come out of left field. We don't plan a lot of that stuff.
A lot of stuff, however, most definitely was planned. And after working together for many years, the trio came into this project as clear and level-headed about what they were getting themselves into as anyone could imagine.
We've always run our own race, and we think that we've got a pretty good handle on what the drinking market is and what they're looking for. The Australian beer industry is a 1.7 billion litre market, of which Stone & Wood has about 13.5 million litres of it. So in the whole scheme of things, we're absolutely tiny. And we're the second largest independent behind Coopers. So that gives you an idea of how long that tail is when we've got 650 odd breweries in Australia. So collectively as a group, there's a lot of upside for independent beer. And that's why it's quite a collegial group or a collegial society.
But in an emotional twist, one of this trio's members had decided to call it a day.
And after all this time, you've decided you've got to the point where you're going to pull back and enjoy it? Yeah, it's been a long career. I've been in beer since the early 80s. So yeah, and it's time to step back, enjoy the other parts of your life that you sort of put on hold.
With that, I had to take into consideration that this may be one of the last times that these three founders sat down for an on-site knockoff drink.
I feel like this drink just became a little bit more special.
He's farewell. He'll be back.
Or maybe not. It struck me as pretty obvious that Jamie, Ross and Brad had a friendship that would call for celebratory beers for a long time to come. And although the guests might have been blissfully unaware of Jamie's impending departure, they looked pretty content, to the point that it may have been hard to take the smile off their face anyway. Some 2 hours north in Brisbane, another brand was getting ready to establish itself as one of the big players in southeast Queensland. And Deal Stanley Hunt had some news to share about Slipstream's latest move forward.
So mate, congratulations are in order. You've recently got a couple of beers into one of the major retailers.
Yeah, that's right. We're 3 years in. It's taken us a little while, as these retailers like you to prove yourself in the market and like you to be around for a little while. So we've got 2 beers at a first choice liquor, going well.
It seemed Deal's determination had paid off. Slipstream beers were going into the big fridges. But wait, there's more.
How do you see the business moving forward this year?
Lots of exciting things happening for us at Slipstream. I think with this retail growth, with first choice liquor, it's going to drive some of our volume. So we're going to need to invest in more people down the track. We're also going to be launching interstates, Victoria, New South Wales. That's going to bring on some exciting challenges, I'm sure. Sort of dip our toe in the waters down there, just to make sure that we can supply what demand is down there for Slipstream product. We don't want to be ranged in 200 venues down south, because we won't be able to sustain that sort of demand or that sort of growth.
Steady as you go.
Steady as you go, yeah. Sustainable growth. We want to add more people to the team in a controlled, calculated way, rather than just being out of control and then disappointing people.
Brewer Henry gave me some insight into what he did to keep up the pace of the Slipstream Brewing regiment.
Yeah, so it's pretty much it. This is just our control panel. It's not as fancy as some of the ones that are on the market with fancy touch screen and everything. This is 100% full manual, and it's all sensory. So we like to feel how all the pumps are working, and it's all just driven by pumps, basically.
Extra hands-on kind of
yeah,
stuff.
It's super hands-on. Yeah, I prefer it this way.
It was all hands-on this brew deck, but it didn't seem to faze this bloke.
You've been here for how long? 12 months?
Yeah, just over a year. We've got the team here. Quite a small team, but
Well, you're about to grow, so are you looking forward to that? Is it going to take the pressure off you?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have another person in the brewery. Because we work in shifts, so Ian finishes a bit earlier, and then most of the time I'm here by myself. So
you're a clean-up guy.
Yeah, so Ian comes in, he turns on all the machinery, gets all the equipment ready, and then we just got to work together and get it done. So.
As long as the beer gets made at the end of the day.
That's it, share the load, and it's hot, it's sweaty, but I wouldn't change it.
You're in a good place for a drink afterwards. Every time that you hire someone, that's a big step forward in itself, really, isn't it? Because it's the sign of the business really growing.
Yeah, that's right. It's great to be able to employ more people. There's a lot of guys out there that want to get in, so us being able to train somebody, bring somebody on board is really fulfilling.
What's your contribution to Brews Vegas this year?
Yeah, so we're doing our Bermuda Triangle, and as part of that, we're brewing a beer.
Did you say Bermuda Triangle?
Bermuda Triangle, that's it, yes. So we've got two other breweries close to us here, so we've got a shuttle bus that'll go around all three breweries, and we're collaborating on a beer for brews for that day, for that event.
There we go. So this is our new release, our apricot sour. It's a kettle sour beer with apricots. Beautiful colour there, nice and dry.
It is nice and dry.
Perfect for a Queensland weather.
Yeah. I'm surprised, because when you say apricots, straight away you think of that fruit and the sugar that comes with it.
Yeah, there's no sweetness in that beer, just
the flavour.
Fruit flavour there, yeah.
Like it or not, sour was becoming flavour of the month.
It's amazing Queensland, they're just lapping up the sours these days, especially fruited sours, going extremely well.
You got more in the pipeline?
Yeah, it's part of the Fruit Cart series, so we're going to be rolling out a new sour, a new fruited sour, probably every 2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months, good. How have you seen people's attitudes change towards craft beer? Where they came in the door, I suppose, 1 or 2 years ago and were like, oh, what's this stuff? And now?
Yeah, I think most people have been touched by craft beer, and they understand that it's different from your mainstream macro beer. They understand that there's different flavours, and it can be quite flavoursome. So we're not having to do the hard yards that we had to earlier on to convert people to more flavourful beverages. They're just looking for an experience now, looking to try some different things, you know, sour beers, IPAs, all sorts of things.
Put it there, buddy.
Thank you.
It was definitely exciting times for Deal and the Slipstream team. I had first-hand experience working for the big retailers and knew all too well the expectations they had when it came to getting a product on their shelves. So hearing Deal's news was definitely something to be happy about. Like all small businesses, breweries were met with their fair share of challenges to get a foothold in Australia's grocery space. And I had seen how hard the Slipstream crew had worked to get where they were. But a whole new set of challenges were about to blindside not only myself, Deal, and his team, but the entire world.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
China is urging its citizens not to travel abroad as it struggles to contain the virus.
Nationals coming from China are now banned from entering the country.
We will be standing up Christmas Island as a quarantine area.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation.
We now have a name for the disease, COVID-19.
Coronavirus. There's confirmation the coronavirus has reached Australia.
COVID-19 can be characterised as a pandemic.
So together, and with the rest of the world, we face this unprecedented challenge. For many, 2020 will be the toughest year of our lives.
As the world was thrust into a new normal, far outside most people's comprehension, Australian business owners were forced into damage control. After years of hard work to gain the reputation required to solidify their place in the Australian business landscape, craft brewers and business founders were now faced with a whole new set of challenges, along with a looming sense of uncertainty never experienced before in their lifetimes. For weeks on end, tap houses that had gained a healthy patronage now lay empty as the Australian hospitality industry was brought to a screeching halt. Reluctantly, people accepted that for the time being, COVID-19 was here to stay, and 2 weeks to flatten the curve would stretch out far beyond 2 months. The industry's saving grace was its ability to retain production. And although restrictions would continue to intermittently disrupt tap house sales, retail sales saw a marked increase. Although COVID-related issues would stretch on and become even more complicated, the craft beer workforce displayed a level of resilience up there with the best in the business world. It was more than just businesses at stake. It was the story of an industry just finding its stride and refusing to be knocked down. While the world witnessed wave after wave of new outbreak, the Australian craft beer workforce managed to keep its head above water, navigating the first few chaotic months of the global pandemic and coming out the other side relatively unscathed.
So we're extra cautious, have been right from the start. We spray everything. We try and not let them use the FPOS machine where possible. If they do, we spray it again. The government's left the bottle shops, places like ours open. And like I say, it's been boom time for us. A lot of people have been buying these fridges so they can have beer on tap at home. And I think this will carry on right through now, through Christmas, because people are used to drinking our beer now. We didn't know what to expect. But I think because the government shut down all the pubs and people still want to have a beer, we did do really well out of it, which is, we're grateful for that. We know a lot of people have suffered, and especially hospitality.
When the news came out and venues started closing down, it all happened very suddenly. So we, within a week, basically all the pubs and clubs and bars in the country had shut down. So we didn't know how that was going to affect off-premise sales in terms of bottle shops. Luckily, they were still able to stay open and trade, which allowed us to kind of pivot what we were doing at the time and really focus on supporting those supply chains and getting beer through bottle shop networks so that people still had some good beer to drink at home. Yeah, look, the impact from COVID's been huge, and no one's been spared from that. Our industry's been fortunate in that we've been allowed to stay open. We haven't had any significant outbreaks. Some of it can be boiled down to preparation and planning, but ultimately I think a lot to do with this virus has been luck. We've been very lucky as an industry, and we're grateful for that we've been able to get through. We know lots of people that just couldn't have done anything in their power to stop it from affecting their business really drastically. We wouldn't write off 2020. It hasn't been a great year globally, but we try and find the positives where we can. We found a great sense of community and togetherness here at Black Ops, and been able to really pull the team together. Skills where they could be used in other areas of the business to make sure people stayed employed. And I think for a business, we've come out of this stronger.
It gave us some valuable time there to work on the business and not in it. And there was a lot of things that we economised and things that I worked out we could do through the production as well. We created a lot of efficiencies, especially in terms of labour and stuff like that too. So that's good. We can now brew back to back, like day to day, where it used to be we had to prep for a day and then brew a day. So there's sort of like half the amount of labour there. Right. Effectively, it's not quite right. We're pulling some big days to do it.
Yeah, we ended up completely stopping keg production really, and then switching all over to cans. It's done really well financially for the business.
Yeah, I suppose the only sensible thing to do at the time.
Yeah, because we had never sold into any bottle shops as well previously.
Yeah, it forced your hand to do that.
Yeah, it did. It forced our hand to do that, and we've been selling out of beer for the past 2 months.
Yeah, there's not much to see in there at the moment because we've sold out of everything. Everything goes in like friggin'. All our cans for wholesale were sold out in less than 2 weeks. We had 40 kegs.
Yeah, our last month in September was our biggest month we've ever had. Really? Bigger than Christmas. That's normally Christmas's drinking season.
Oh yeah. The demand's been impressive. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're doing the best we can, but that's why we bought a bigger cold room or tanks. So. Yeah, we sort of, for safety reasons, in case it breaks out again or anything, we're still skewing heavily towards cans and not towards kegs. Yeah. And it seems to be working pretty well.
The main thing is you haven't stopped brewing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, we're sort of planning at the moment. We're looking at making an offer on another lease to open the tap room. That possibly might happen, July next year. Yeah. So,
are you eyeing off the location at the moment?
We are, it's not signed, but we're certainly very close on one, and there's another 2 down there, so I think we're looking down in Crumble Waters.
And on the flip side, we always wanted the tap room, and we didn't have that to deal with, so we didn't have to worry about, shutting the tap room down. Yeah, a lot of things like that, I see as sort of disadvantages before sort of actually helped us a lot through the whole pandemic sort of thing.
Were you looking at other breweries and seeing how they were tackling it?
Yeah, it was interesting seeing like how Black Ops handled their sort of staff. They started their like home delivery service, sort of, and I think that was basically just to keep their casuals in a job basically, which is awesome for for their point of view. Yeah. So it was great to see that sort of in the industry with a lot of other breweries, worried about what their staff were going to do. Yeah.
Pete and Luke weren't the only brewers to see an increase in production. But for the bigger brands, with far more complex schedules, the challenges of a pandemic were a whole different ballgame.
So how have you dealt with COVID as a company? You've had the tap room shut down the whole time.
We have. We actually closed that. So in this process in early March where things were happening very quickly, we were kind of just looking at it all and trying to stay up with everything as well as run a business and keep production going and not wanting to risk production because, part of the charm here is that production is open to the tap house. So we just made the decision that we would close the tap house. We couldn't risk having the public coming in not knowing what was going on with this thing, and we couldn't risk that. We thought we were going to close for a couple of weeks. Here we are, October, and this Friday is the 23rd, and we're planning our cautious reopening.
How was production overall changed?
We had an initial, it looked like panic buying spike. I think people thought the bottle shops were going to be closed down.
Yeah, they definitely did think that.
Yeah. And then that was followed by a massive drop. So we're all of a sudden working on Saturdays, which we don't normally do. We're working Saturdays and even Sundays to get enough beer out to where it needed to go. And then the next month it was half of that.
Not for long though.
and then it just started to, I think that this had to get normalized, like what's going on, and then it slowly, maybe it began to ramp up. And of course, in the middle of winter, we weren't seeing our normal winter slowdown, which is where we do a lot of maintenance on the machines. We're all of a sudden having to do maintenance on the weekends because we couldn't get it done during the week.
Have you learned anything in particular about the business as a result of all this?
Communication became the absolute, from all through the business, became the biggest thing because, is everything okay? We're going to have to shut down. Am I going to lose my job? And we just didn't need any of that thinking if it was not necessary. We had leadership team meetings every single day. I did a video update for the whole team for like 60 days in a row every day because there was that much to talk about, and I'd see something on the news and think, what are people going to assume from that? I better tell them what it actually means for us and things like that. So, and we called it, we didn't want to keep talking about the virus or the disaster or the pandemic or the whatever. So we called this whole thing Keep the Change. And it was kind of a reminder that actually there might be some good things that come of this that are worth hanging on to.
Yeah. We normally have an end of month meeting with the entire staff, and that turned into a Zoom call meeting. Getting a musician or a comedian.
Yeah, into our Zoom meetings, just.
Up and above everything, you feel like you've dealt with it pretty well as a business?
Cautiously. Like I said, I think there's still unknowns. Like I said earlier, we're going up in sales, but is Christmas going to be so big that we can't handle it? Like we don't have enough capacity at the brewery, or is it going to taper off? What's?
But that's our job. We have to just try and be prepared.
Have you spoken to many other people in the industry while this is going on?
Absolutely not.
His attention has been with that team. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I'm taking it very seriously that I'm not shaking people's hands, just because I don't want to bring anything back to these guys. So, and I encourage, we have daily meetings to say, hey, remember, there's still a virus out there, and be careful.
Although it hadn't shut down production completely, COVID-19 put the brakes on an industry that had just come into its own, and we hadn't seen the last of the curveballs yet. Lockdowns continued to threaten everyday routine for several more months. And 2020 would be remembered as the year that, in many ways, brought the world to a stop.
tell you the whole story.
Yeah, we were a little bit scared. Like anybody, we weren't sure what the next steps were.
When we moved down here 6 years ago to plan out for a 5-year expansion.
So this is with Rick's hops. So it's got the Cascade in it. We've dry hopped it with that.
It's got your name written all over it.
That's it.
But also our dedication to making sure that we're producing a beer that people want to try.
Buildings. COVID obviously was a huge one. So there was periods in that 2 years where we were basically paused, kind of waiting and seeing what was happening.
Have you got some good news for me?
Oh, we've always got good news, mate. We can make beer, we're fine.